And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Get your next ride, your end-of-year ride. You know the best deals are at the end of the year. We all know that. Head to Stokes Volkswagen in North Charleston, StokesVW.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app and at jbandgoldwatershow.com. That website, jbandgoldwatershow.com, is where you can also register to win something. Starting Monday, 12 days of Christmas giveaways here on JB and Goldwater, brought to you by Three Seeds Wellness Studios in the Low Country. If you are in the Low Country, that, gentlemen and ladies, is where you want to get somebody something good this holiday season. How about a massage, a facial? Maybe your wife has been wanting a facial. Or you could win a $100 gift card or a gift basket there by going to our website, jbandgoldwatershow.com. We're also going to give away a couple rounds of golf to Stono Ferry, so you can pick which prize you want, and that's all there at jbandgoldwatershow.com. And click on the link to go to Three Seeds Wellness Studios. You'd be blown away. There's nothing like this in Charleston. I'm telling you, there's nothing like it that offers all those different services. Over 20 of them. Three Seeds Wellness Studios bringing that to you this holiday season. We bring you this show for the next couple of hours. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines are happening. ShareHealthcare.com. It's time to save money. We got a couple clients that we work with. They're our partners here who know how to save you money. So if you're pinching pennies this holiday season and you go, man, where am I going to be able to shave some dough that we shell out every month, maybe starting in January, it might be with your health care. Go to sharehealthcare.com for more. Go to the chat lines, YouTube, Facebook, wherever. Pop us a note. We'll pop it in the show. Just like we've got David Shelton, Cory McCartney, and Scott Glaze all popping in consecutively today. High school state championships start tonight. Fired up to get David's thoughts on the 1A through 5A state titles, state title games that will last through the weekend. So we're going to get a full breakdown on all of those. Should be some fantastic matchups. Cory McCartney, he'll pop in on what this lockout means for Major League Baseball. Why are we locked out? What's going on? I mean, there's a lot of big words out there. And I'm not the smartest human on earth, so I don't even understand half of what they're talking about. Cory is pretty bright, though, so he'll bring that to us. Plus, any updates on the Braves, maybe some free agent signings that they want to happen but aren't happening. Oh, I don't know, like Freddie Freeman. So we'll talk to him about all that stuff. And then Scott Glaze, the Tiger Woods story is circulating quickly. Tiger's back to golf, but he might not be back to permanent touring and much more. So we're going to get Scott's thoughts on all of that. Nobody better for that than Scott Glaze. We'll get into some of the coaching stuff, the college football playoff expansion committee. Darren, I don't know if you realize this. Yesterday, the college football playoff committee and Major League Baseball were meeting simultaneously in Dallas. Dallas was the star of the sports world, no pun intended there. There's a lot going on.
Not much happened in either place. So Dallas, while it's the hub, it's not really the place of action because baseball decided they're not taking any action on either side, and they're just going to lock everyone out, which really does stink for the Braves trying to get Freddie Freeman signed. And now you've got who knows how long before that's even a possibility. And then the playoff thing, who knows what's going to happen there. I'll say this, though. Last night was great in many respects for me. Number one, with 13 individual basketball games that I was keeping a very close eye on for certain reasons. It's a great, great, great night. And number two, in watching all these games, now that it's full basketball season, I had the ESPN app on the top TV, so I had 4 screens going at once up there. I had multiple different viewing options for other games. And then I had a buddy texting me that he wants Rob Manfred fired, not just because of the lockout, but more importantly, because of the different baseballs that were used. So there was a lot going on, and really none of it had anything to do with college football. So I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a night off of the gridiron action for you, although this weekend, as we all know, is pretty big for the sport of college football. We're gonna get to all that today and tomorrow as well. We will get to football in just a little bit, but we're going to spend a couple of minutes on last night's hoops. And here in the state of South Carolina, the Gamecocks embarrassed in Conway versus the Chanticleers, and it was an embarrassing loss. 80-56, the final score. That's their second loss of the season for the Gamecocks. And their only other loss came earlier in the year against Princeton up in Asheville. This was the first true road game of the year for Carolina, although not in a large venue or building or anything like that. Coastal does have a history of taking down in-state teams. They embarrassed Clemson up there a few years ago as well. They've done it before, but this was, sometimes you lose weird, tricky games on the road. I know where everybody's going with this. Frank Martin has a loss or two a season that happens or they shouldn't happen. I get that. But losing tricky games on the road, losing tricky games at home, neutral sites, those generally don't come with 24 points behind them like that. It was a bad night for South Carolina. Jermaine Couisnard did not play. His presence or lack thereof was certainly felt. Outside of that, though, I don't know that Jermaine Couisnard, even playing in the game last night, would have saved South Carolina from that embarrassment. The whole team stunk it up. The end of the game when the young man at Coastal tossed the basketball at Josh Gray, and he just picked it up, pegged him in the back of the head with it. That's inexcusable. I'd kick his ass out for the next game or two. You don't do that. You've already been embarrassed. Why are you going to bring any more attention to yourself? Carolina, it's early in the year, so even though I'm going to say this and people are going to disagree, it is true. They will have plenty of chances to avenge a loss like this. But at the end of the year, if they're kept out of the tournament and they're hovering right around, that line, Darren, and they're not in there because of another weird loss, strange loss like this. Mm-hmm. But we're not there yet. I think where fans are with this loss is, oh, here we go. Is this a sign of things to come? Because, they had to squeak by Ryder. They had to pull away from Wofford. They had to hang on against UAB, although UAB is really a basketball team. They had to pull away from Western Kentucky. None of those teams were Georgetown, Florida State, Clemson, or anybody in the SEC. And I still maintain my stance. There are a lot of things to like about this basketball team. But last night, if that's any sign of anything to come, oh, sweet Jesus. It is going to be a hard year to watch, and many of those people will probably just not be watching.
I have a hard time believing they can play worse. That game, the fact that they made it close around the half was shocking to me. I watched that entire first half. That was one of the games constantly up there and oftentimes blown up to full screen. Defensively, as much as we've praised this team for being, quote, like a Frank Martin type of team, they didn't want to play defense. They didn't try to play. They didn't do anything worth any type of emphasis or energy on the defensive end to slow down Coastal. And that bit them in the second half. They got hot at the end of the first half, and that allowed them to close a double-digit deficit in the first half, down to what I think was a 1-point deficit at the half. But it was an embarrassing performance. Couisnard wouldn't have done a thing if he was out there, unless he could have played for 5 different guys. Nobody wanted to play. The frustration clearly boiled over. I'm not going to sit here and say this is an indictment on the rest of the season because it's too early. But I did say yesterday something I'll double down on here. They've been very inconsistent. While there are positive signs, they've been very inconsistent. You just listed Ryder. They were trailing Ryder for a good portion of that before Stevenson finally got hot and they came back. Wofford was not an easy game right there. And then this. Coastal's not a great team. It's concerning, but it could also be one of those kick in the butt type things. I'll be legitimately surprised if we see the Gamecocks play this bad or worse again this year. I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah, I hope it's not. And you're right. I don't want to take anything away from Coastal's victory last night. They deserved it. They played.
Oh, they played well.
Yeah, they did, and they played like this game was circled on their schedule for a long time. I mean, Cliff Ellis had the shots ready to roll. They were energized. They were running up down the floor. They were having fun. They were almost taunting Carolina at times. Not that they were, but it felt that way just because they were so confident in what they were doing in the ball game. And Carolina looked, I'll be honest, they looked just disinterested in playing the basketball game. I know Frank said afterwards, I told the team in shoot around, y'all probably going to get beat by 20 points, or, summarizing what he said. He was right. He was just a couple of points off. It was 24. Why that is, I don't know. But, you can't have that. It's a bad time for that because the next two games are Georgetown and Florida State. Now, Georgetown's not off to the best of starts this year, but still Georgetown. And then you got Florida State. Here's the good news. Georgetown's at home. Florida State's in Rock Hill. So they're not having to go very far or not having to go to those arenas, which are difficult to play in. So that's good. And then they got Allen, and then they got to go to Clemson. So it's, that was embarrassing. I mean, that was just embarrassing, Darren. It was an embarrassing loss. I was looking at the RPI stuff this morning. The net rankings, remember, aren't really out just yet, but you could still kind of get a peek at some of the RPI stuff. And Coastal was like a 250 RPI team going into that game. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, they're not a great team, and the reason they seem like they were taunting and out there having fun. That's a really fun game to play in if you're Coastal. You're flying up and down the floor, and no one's stopping you. No one's trying to stop you. That's the type of game where, the casual basketball hooper, like who used to play in high school and maybe just come off the bench to shoot free throws like me, that's the type of game I'd have fun in because even I could have success because no one's going to stop me running down the floor and getting a pass in the lane as I cut to the hoop. Yeah. No one was doing it. Coastal's not a great team. They deserve to win because they played free and loose and had fun, but they're not half as good as they looked, and that's because South Carolina was they didn't show up. That was bad. That was as poor a performance of any in the 13 games I was closely watching last night.
Oh, they I mean, one word sums it up. They sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it was brutal for Carolina. So, hopefully they can get some things turned around, and we'll see what they look like coming up on Sunday against the Hoyas of Georgetown, who will be coming to town with Patrick Ewing. That'll be neat to see him inside of Colonial Life Arena. It's a 2:00 tip on the SEC network. Bad night. An upset. Hey, sometimes you get upset. People are still going to be pissed about it. You lose like that. That's embarrassing. Yeah. Charleston Southern's got Jacksonville tonight. That is the only state hoops game to pass along. All right, into football we go. Share Healthcare chat lines are open as it pertains to basketball here. J-Rock Media, what's up, guys? I like Frank Martin, but I don't know, a change may be needed at some point. This has been tough. Clint says that's 2 bad losses already, and we're only 7 games in. I'm as of now, Clint. Well, there's definitely one. I'm going to go with 1.5. Let's wait and see what Princeton looks like as the year moves along. I respect that program a lot.
It's a bad loss. I mean, it might look a little better, but he's right. It's a bad loss.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good loss. Don't misunderstand me. It's not Coastal though. That's a bad loss against Coastal. It's just terrible. Let's see here. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? Marion, I see Jacoby Wright getting better as a freshman, and I'm excited to see him grow. Well, hope he grows up quick because they're going to probably need that. All right, into football we go. Darren, the top four in the college football playoff right now: Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati. We all know what sits in front of them this weekend. Just out of curiosity, by the way, of those four, who has the best chance to win their conference championship game?
Of Georgia, Michigan,
Alabama, and Cincinnati, the top four. That's tricky, isn't it?
It is only because there's a popular feeling that this Michigan team is like Michigan teams of the past, and that you remember when Clemsoning was a thing. Anytime a big game's in front of them, they're just going to lose. Like 10, 15 years ago, that was a thing. There's a thought that Michigan is the same way, and that's a fair thought based on previous years. But this year, with the exception of Michigan State, that was a late comeback and a superstar performance-led comeback, that hasn't been the team this year. They physically dominated Ohio State. I don't think that, and I've been pretty high on Michigan all year long. I don't think this is a Michigan team that has a letdown. I think it's a tie between Michigan and Cincinnati is a long-winded answer to that. And I think Georgia is barely behind. I think Georgia wins by double digits.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Cincinnati. I wouldn't count out Alabama. You just can't. You can't do it. Michigan's got Iowa. Iowa's playing pretty good football right now, and that's a team that sometimes they can just spark some magic. Iowa
just doesn't have the offense that can keep up. They can turn them over.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean.
Do they have the offense to keep up with Michigan? I just don't see it.
Well, they got to make it ugly, and they're gonna have to make it ugly to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna have to be an ugly Big Ten game to win the Big Ten championship for Iowa.
Yeah. And Michigan hasn't really played in many of them. Maybe the Nebraska game, a little bit Rutgers early on in the year. Other than that, that hasn't been who they are this year.
Yeah, this is. I would say it's Cincinnati. I like the way Cincinnati's playing right now, and I respect the hell out of Houston at 21-11-1, and they've played great football down the stretch, man. But I would say Cincinnati has the best chance to win. So let me expand that. If they do, now Oklahoma State's got Baylor, and that is a trick in itself. Okay, Baylor's pretty good, but if they win and Oklahoma State wins, regardless of look, here's the thing: if Georgia wins, and Oklahoma State wins, they're in, right?
Yep.
So if Cincinnati and Oklahoma State both win, or let's say it this way: if Alabama and Cincinnati and Oklahoma State all win, what are you doing?
Now I'm wrapping my head around the question.
If Alabama,
Cincinnati, and Oklahoma State all win, then you certainly have Georgia still in there. Alabama's in there. Then you have the decision of Cincinnati, Oklahoma State. To me, if that scenario happens, I can't answer it right now because it'll depend on how the two teams look. Yeah. Because I pointed it out when we were talking to Mike Morgan.
Agree.
Oklahoma State has a chance to do something nobody else in college football has done this year. Win 3 games against teams with 10 wins. That says something to me. Cincinnati's resume is good. It's gotten better as they've gone along and finished the year strong and kind of gotten over their little blip there towards the late middle portion of the season. So if they win convincingly, I don't think there's a way to keep them out. But if they are kind of up and down and it's not a pretty game and it's one of those Navy-ish type games or Tulane for Cincinnati and Oklahoma State goes and convincingly beats Baylor, then I got a problem on my hands. I don't know, but I think if Cincinnati wins out, which would mean one more game, I do think they're in. I think it'll be very hard to keep them out at that point.
Do you know the last time that Alabama lost to an SEC East team?
I don't know. 20 years ago? That's what it feels like.
Any guesses?
South Carolina. How about that?
Yeah.
Gamecocks. That's why you asked the question.
Stephen Garcia, Williams-Brice Stadium in October of 2010. Now, these conversations that we're having pertaining to who's in and who's out, we might not be having in the future if they can get an expansion model passed in college football. Yesterday, that meeting happened, Darren, And so let's back the truck up for a second here. Let's back the truck up so everybody kind of understands exactly what's being considered. All right. So the 6+6 model has been where they've been, what they've kind of been settling on for a few months, which is the 6th highest ranked conference champions and the 6 highest ranked teams following that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's something that that Greg Sankey, who we all agree has the most pull here, correct?
Yeah, except this needs to be unanimous.
Yeah, it has to be. No, I know that. It has to be unanimous. But I'm saying Greg Sankey has the most pull. He's the lead dog in the of the best league in the country, the SEC.
Yeah. I just don't know if pull is the right way, because there isn't much. You can't pull anybody anywhere here. I mean, everyone has to sign off.
But that's kind of my point with Greg Sankey is he's a guy who's like, I'll stay at 4. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
So he has pull in that sense, and the fact that he doesn't have to fight for anything. He can sit on whatever exactly he wants to sit on. That's where his pull is. And the fact that he's fine at staying at 4 because the SEC's in there every year anyway. He didn't care. So that's the pull for Greg Sankey, and the fact that he's not one of these. He's not a Mike Oresco. He's not one of these freshman commissioners who is quote unquote trying to do what's best for their league. He's doing what's best for his league by staying put. If that's what happens, it doesn't matter. But he was put on this committee, and they came up with this 6+6 model, which they thought was fair to college football. Not the 5-1 model, which has now kind of entered the fray. And for those that don't know what the 5-1 model is, it is the 5 Power 5 champions plus the highest ranked G5 champion. That's the other model that's now being considered. And then 6 other teams, if you're going to go to 12, the next 6 highest teams. And then you're talking about just basically a best of 8. Okay, so that's kind of where they are here. The best 8 teams in college football, which to your point, Darren, you've said before, I think we can make this pretty simple, guys. If we go to 8, how about just take the best 8 teams? If we go to 12, how about just take the best 12 teams and forget all this Power 5 champion and this champion and that champion? Mike Oresco, who's with the AAC, of course, doesn't want anything that has P5, G5 because he doesn't feel like there's a true line between them. He feels like that's basically animated conversation to kind of summarize here. Like, well, there shouldn't really be a P5 versus a G5. But, Mike, you're wrong because there is. Like, that's not disappearing. You can claim that there's a Power 6 or a Power 7 all you want to, but it's not true. It's just like Central Florida claiming that they're national champions. That wasn't true. So Greg Sankey, the 6-6 model that originally came out, that's the best model for everybody, right? I mean, if Cincinnati, which this year they would be the highest ranked G5 team, gets in, there's still more room for other G5 teams to get in there. So I'm not sure where this is going. They're going to meet again in Indianapolis around the national championship in January, Darren. But it's really strange to see some of these commissioners fighting for things that I think actually long term might end up hurting them.
And it's not so many of them fighting. It's like one guy. It's Oresco. I mean, that's why. And to Mackenzie's point too, it's not like Sankey has all the pull and all the cards. He's got one of them, and he has the most powerful one. Yeah. But in this scenario, everyone just has to be on the same page here. And whether we go, the question really is not if it's going to expand. It is going to expand. It's just how quickly are they going to figure this thing out and agree upon it? Because if they don't do it by the next meeting, if it's not done by February, it's possible the playoffs won't expand until the end of this current deal, which is 25-26. That's possible. That's kind of the line of thinking right now. That's at least the message being pushed. Can they speed it up if they come to an agreement in March? I don't know, probably. But the propaganda is if it's not done by February, then it can't be done until the end of the year or the end of the current deal. So will they all just agree? Is that just kind of like what I said? Is it propaganda to try and force Oresco to bend? The reality is it's going to expand. It's almost assuredly going to be 12. And then it's either going to be the every conference champ gets in, or the top 5 of the group of 5 champ, and then the other Power 5 guys. Those are your 6. Or, like you said, maybe it's just the top 6, or it'll be like the original proposal where the top 4 conference champs get the auto bid, or the top 5, and then the highest remaining conference champ as well, not just a group of 5. I don't think group of 5 should be guaranteed. Never thought that. But here's Mike Oresco standing out there on this limb that makes absolutely no sense. He's really in some senses, he's the only one that's holding cards, because he's the one who's holding this thing up. Everyone else is sitting there like, come on, dude. Like, yeah, we're ready to go. So in some sense, he's the one who's got the cards.
Yeah, which makes no sense. I mean, I don't. The ACC wants expansion, right?
Yeah, everyone does.
The Pac, well, not everyone. Like I said, the not SEC is the SEC will sit on 4 teams. They really,
but that's not realistic anymore, because we know it's not staying at 4. It's going to expand.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just saying, if the SEC never pushed for this, the Pac-12 has pushed for it. The Big 12, or whatever you want to call them, has pushed for it. The Big 10 is an interesting case because Kevin Warren is a little different than his predecessor. But I think overall, and the Big 10's another one who I feel like if somebody said we're either sticking at 4 or we're expanding to 8 or 12, and the Big 10 did not like the 8 or 12 model, I think the Big 10, much like the SEC, would be smart enough to say, we'll stay at 4 because we're going to get in there every single year. The rest of you turds, y'all can't get in every year. All right, the ACC has one shot every year. We all know who it is. And this year, guess what? They're not in there. And is the ACC in there? No. The Pac-12 is praying to God that Lincoln Riley can get Southern Cal back to it, because Pac-12, they don't have prayer. The Big 12 has a chance. Yeah, they do. And the Big 12 has had Oklahoma as their chance every year except this year. But Oklahoma State took care of Oklahoma, so that's why they've got a chance. But the 2 leagues out there who every year are like, yeah, I'll bet my house more so than not that we're going to have a team in there, is the Big 10 and the SEC. Period. The end. I mean, there's no other discussion to be had here. So, like, these leagues that are desperately wanting to expand because they want to tap into the money and get their teams in there and this, that, and the other, they're the ones that are going to need to bend. I love Sankey's responses yesterday. He was just as quiet as a church mouse. Hey, this has nothing to do with me, guys. I'm just basically listening to all this. So I don't know what some of these guys are doing. And Darren, to your point a minute ago, there shouldn't be a quote unquote just a G5 team put in there. And that's part of the 6-6 model that they came up with. Because if you go to that 5-1 model, you're backing your own self into a corner. Like, what is Oresco doing? If you had a 6-6 model where you had Cincinnati and Central Florida in 2 different leagues who happen to be 2 of the top 6 conference champions out there, but they're not in Power 5 leagues, then guess what? They would both be top 6 selections. And this guy, I don't know what card he's playing. There's got to be more to this. There's got to be something else that he's hanging his hat on that nobody knows about. But publicly, it makes zilch sense.
Yeah, and it makes less sense because we are certain that this thing is expanding beyond 4. Like, that's not even a question anymore. It's the only question is when. And the likelihood of 8 is getting smaller and smaller because the money is so much greater with 12 than 8. So if you're going to expand, and some of the driving force of expansion is money, then 12 makes more sense than 8 by couple hundred millions of dollars worth of sense. So it's going to go there. It's just, how are we going to go there? What exact format are we going to go with to get there? I think home sites and some of the bowl games are also part of the discussion, how they need to fix or fit all of this stuff together. But if they can't figure this thing out soon, then it's going to be a lot of people who were in a room who got everybody excited, all college football fans excited a couple months back, and then college football world changed and they couldn't adapt with it. And there already is a whole lot of frustration mixed in with this. By the way, I've thrown this up a couple times. You'll see it, I'm sure, tomorrow again and probably throughout today. The Post Up Careers Conference Championship resume. You got the SEC, Big 10, American, the ACC, Big 12, and the Pac-12. That'll be tomorrow night, by the way, Oregon and Utah. Postupcareers.com. He can help you with your LinkedIn optimization, resume. By the way, if you're like Brian Kelly, you just want your new challenge, right? Simple as that. You've done everything you can do in your job. Time for a new challenge. Call Franklin or just look him up at postupcareers.com. He'll get you ready for it.
Yeah, Franklin, he is super at what he does. By the way, I love this quote from Craig Sankey yesterday. Quote, "It is a reality that some who suggested that we needed to expand are now not there at this point." Basically saying, hey, all you jerks who were clamoring to get in on it, on the fun with us, and now all of a sudden you're backing down and you thought you're going to have all this power. What's going on here? I'll just sit back in my chair and relax. That's all he's doing. It's funny to watch this. And it's really funny to see some of the people in this sport that think that they have power, and the ones that do don't have to do anything to use it. It's shocking. It's amazing. All right, 12:30 on a Thursday afternoon. It is time for a timeout. We're talking about playoffs, right? Playoffs? Well, the playoffs conclude tonight in 4A football tomorrow and Saturday in the rest of the high school league. David Shelton with the Post and Courier is going to break down this weekend's state championships right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle, and we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations: Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. It's almost Friday afternoon. It's Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen. All right. It is state championship time in high school football. Here is the schedule. Tonight at Benedict College at the 4A level, you've got South Point and Beaufort. Tomorrow at the 3A level at 2 o'clock at Benedict up in Columbia, Daniel will take on the Camden Bulldogs. And tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at Benedict, Gray and Silver Bluff will battle. And then on Saturday, the Class A level at noon, Southside Christian and Bamberg Earhart. And then at 5 o'clock, the 5A boys will play, and that is Gaffney and Dutch Fork. David Shelton will be covering all of this, and he's joined us to break it all down and give us a good preview for the final weekend of high school football. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? I've been listening to y'all's discussion about the playoff, and I just want to say more is not necessarily better. I have long been a proponent of, in my area of quote-unquote expertise in the high school level, we need to cut back on the number of teams who make the playoffs, not add.
Yeah.
And I, as far as college football, as long as there's 12 people in a room deciding who's going to go, I'm not for it. They can't even get the 4 right. So how we expect them to get the 8? Now, if you go conference champion only, I'm okay with that. But I mean, think about this right now. If we were at 8 or 12 in the college football world, and if you had at-larges, I mean, what team in the country would want to play a team like Ole Miss right now, who's not going to win their division, not going to be in the championship game? I bet you could throw Ole Miss in that game Saturday, and they give Alabama and Georgia hell right now. What about? And I know Jamie's going to roll his eyes, but is Clemson at 3 losses, but having won 6 in a row, not one of the top 12 teams in the country? No, they're ranked like 20th in that thing. That ranking system is ridiculous. And I'm not going to knock. I'm not trying to be mean to teams like Coastal or Central Florida or even Cincinnati. But come on, man. Maybe Cincinnati's a top 12 team. They're not a top 4 team in this country. I could name 6 schools right now that would beat Cincinnati, or I think could beat Cincinnati. You've got to play the game. But now that I've said that, Cincinnati will win the national championship. But they'll beat Georgia and beat Michigan or whoever. But in the high school ranks, we get the top 4 teams in every region. I mean, some of these regions have 5 teams.
I know.
And you're taking 4 out of the 5 into the playoffs? Mm-hmm. No, I'm not. More is not better. I think the best should play in the playoffs and have the opportunity. And people go, well, a couple of years ago, a number 4 seed beat a number 1 seed. That's not fair to the number 1 seed. They should not be eliminated by a number 4 seed. If they're going to get eliminated by like Fort last year when they got beat by River Bluff. River Bluff was a number 2 seed, but remember the playoffs were reduced because of COVID and all the mess going on. Only the top 2 teams made the playoffs. I know coaches are like, oh, we got to have more. But me, I'm like, put the best in the playoffs and let them play and not be upset by a 4th seeded team, which only happens once a millennium. So there's my take. But we got football this week, and it's down to the wire. It's do or die now.
Real quick before we get to the high school things. So I don't disagree with you at all. Actually, I one of the things that always enters my mind when I think about the expansion of the playoffs is make sure that you get it right, because Nick Saban said something a few years ago that I think was very valuable, and it should still be today. And that is, don't do this at the expense of bowl season, because bowl season is a good thing for college football. It's the most unique postseason in all of sports, David. I mean, I'm just speaking from a South Carolina side of things. I mean, Gamecocks scratched to 6 wins this year, and they're not the only team. I'm just throwing them out as an example because we're here in the Low Country. But if if they didn't have an opportunity to be rewarded by going to a bowl game and see, good or bad, whatever it is, because people are only concerned with a 12-team playoff or a 16-team playoff or something like that, I feel like that would take a lot out of the sport of college football. It'd change the regular season forever, and we really don't want that.
No, I love bowl season. And you know, everybody's like, well, Shelton's 55 years old. He's got a foot in the dirt. You know, who cares what he thinks? But I love bowl season. And again, you know, 4 is fine. I'm fine with 4. I would be very disinterested with 12. I just would. And I heard Darren, and that's probably where it's going to go. I would be very disinterested because if you get all the conference champions, even if it's Oregon this weekend, okay, they were ranked in the top 5 for a long time until they got blown out. But if they win their conference, okay, put them in this scenario. If Cincinnati wins their conference, put them in this scenario. All the conference champs, I got no problem with Pitt, Wake Forest, put them in. They're conference champs. They're the best in their league. Let them play. But when you start going to the quote-unquote at-large, you know, if you got 6 or 4 at-large, I don't trust those people. I mean, every week that they do these releases, people bitch for 3 days about where teams are ranked. So now you're going to say, okay, you guys, we can't stand the work you're doing. You're so stupid. You're wrong. I mean, I don't bitch because I don't care. But people on your show, people on everybody's show. Oh, you know, this team being at number 7 is a joke. You know, well, you know, Notre Dame at number 6 is a joke. Guess what? Notre Dame's not in the conference. They better get in the conference. If I'm running things, they better get in the conference pretty quick, or they're not going to be ever in the college football playoff. Because you take the conference champs, you leave out all the at-larges. I'm okay with that. But when you start trying to decide who those, again, I go back to like a team like Ole Miss, you know, not ranked. I don't know where they're ranked, but they're one of the top right now, today. They are one of the top 10 teams in the country in my mind. And you know, in this scenario, in my scenario, they wouldn't make the playoff. But in the 12 team, who's going to decide? I really have a problem with who's deciding these things. It's not so much the expansion, but it's who's doing the deciding. And I'm not saying I'm an expert. I mean, but I promise you, me and Jamie and Darren and one other guy, Bobby Harton, we can sit in a room and probably pick four at-large teams as well as that group of people sitting in that room. And that's just my opinion.
I think they're going to do it based on what they've laid out so far. They've been pretty consistent in one respect, that they're going with the teams that would be favored, according to Vegas, if they played on a neutral field. So I think in many respects, what they are going to do is just what you said with these 4. Then the question's going to be, will Cincinnati slide in and kind of buck that trend? Because if Cincinnati were to play Oklahoma State, if they both win this weekend, I'm willing to bet Oklahoma State would actually be favored in that game.
Yeah, and I think I would, you know, I don't bet on college football, but I would bet on Oklahoma State if I were a bettor to beat Cincinnati. You know, I've been saying this all year. I just don't think Cincinnati, and I think Luke Fickell's a great coach. He could coach my team. I just don't think they're one of the top 4 teams in all of college football. I can't wrap my hands around it. I just, you know, Oklahoma State, Michigan, and everybody's like, well, you're just because you're a big boy. Well, yeah, because if you want to be a big boy, Cincinnati, join the Big Ten. Get out of what is that conference they're in? The AAC.
Well, they're going.
Go join a conference.
They're going.
Power 5 conference.
They're going to the Big 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that you get in a big time conference, and we give you credence. You know, again, I love Jamie Chadwell. It's not a knock on Coastal, but when they were ranked like 15th in the country, are you serious? I mean, really? I just can't get it. You want to play big boy football, go play big boy football, and then we don't have to have this conversation.
Yeah, I think, and we'll leave it here so we can get the high school guys in here, David. But, I think I think Mike Morgan has said this, and Darren and a bunch of people, hey, just separate it. Just separate the G5 and the P5. Just and if you want to make a bid to jump from G5 to P5, do it. If that's something you feel like you want to do, go for it. The rest of them, let them go do their own deal and do their own championship. And
because a G5 tournament would still make money for these schools. Now it wouldn't make what the real one, what the big boys make, but a G5 tournament would still make money for these schools.
Oh yeah.
So if it's all about the dollar, they could make some money.
Yeah, it'd be fun too.
No doubt. Have an expanded playoff at the G5 level if you want to, and keep bowl season at the Power 5 level and have a small playoff and be done with it. So, all right. Let's get to high school tonight at Benedict. South Point and Beaufort are in there. Beaufort blew out West Florence 42-10, and South Point got by Greenville. I think it was a pretty I don't have the score in front of me. I can't remember what it is now. But anyways,
it was close.
It was close. Okay, that's right. 7:00 tonight, Benedict. They should all be good games. It's a state championship, but I really do like this matchup here.
I do too. I think it's got a lot of intrigue. Holloman used to be the coach at Beaufort, the South Point coach. Libran, who is now the Beaufort coach, was his offensive coordinator. Holloman goes back home to South Point. Libran gets a job. Both, Libran's the first-time head coach. Had been an assistant at Wando and Fort D and had been around. And here he is, got a team in 3 years in the state finals. And then Holloman goes back home to South Point. And a lot of people were critical of that hire because he had not a lot of experience. He had been a defense coordinator at Beaufort. He was a head coach for 1 year. South Point is an animal amidst itself in terms of the prestige and the history of their program. So, a lot of people were kind of, you're gonna give the program to this guy. Well, this guy has done a really good job, and good for them. I mean, I'm all about these assistant coaches getting jobs. You got to give them a chance. And Bryce has done a great job at Beaufort. He's got a tremendous group of guys that just play hard. And then South Point has never run out of talent. Now they did. I talked to DeMonte earlier this week, and he said this first year they lost 4 or 5 really good guys to that Legion Collegiate. Who Straight Heron was the coach at South Point, went to that charter school, and they lost some pretty good players. But he said the ones that hung in there and stayed there are benefiting now. They're playing for a state championship. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think Beaufort's got a shot. I like South Point to win it. But I think Beaufort has a real shot to win this, and I think it's going to be really competitive.
Hey, that kind of off topic here, but that Legion Collegiate, am I right in this that they're playing the large majority of their schedule versus North Carolina teams because all those Rock Hill boys up there basically said, "Well, we're not going to play you, so you go do what you want to do." Is that true?
They left the South Carolina High School League. They're a North Carolina High School League team now.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I don't know if they're in the chart. I don't know how North Carolina does it. I can't remember. My head's fuzzy on how it works. But they're not a member of the South Carolina High School League. They're not in a conference. They play in North Carolina because they got again, some of the high school league schools kind of gave them a hard time, and they were right there on the border, and they said, hey, we don't have to deal with y'all's crap. We'll just go play in North Carolina. And I think there's more schools like them in North Carolina. I think maybe in a private school league, but I'm not positive. But yeah, nobody in South Carolina messes with them anymore. Their address is in South Carolina. That's it. Everything, and their players are from South Carolina, but they also have some players from North Carolina because they don't have to follow South Carolina rules. Yeah. So yeah, they got out of it. They said, we're not going to, people don't like us, so we're just going to pick up our ball and go home. And that's what they did.
Yeah. Well, David, the Rock Hill area very, very, very well. My cousin was a quarterback up there at Rock Hill High School. And the boys that run Rock Hill and South Point Northwestern, they're in charge, not some new charter school. So if they don't like you, tough luck, pal. You like you said, take your ball and go home. And they did. north of.
And there's a lot of, with Great Collegiate making the championships this year.
Yeah.
Oceanside down here has been pretty good. They're with Gray being in the state championship this year, you'd be shocked. Now they're really good, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But there's a lot of people hoping they lose because their stomachs they're gonna vomit in their mouth because a charter school has won a state championship. It's not going to, and they're probably going to win, but it's not as. I mean, it is a bad taste down here with Oceanside, but not nearly as bad as it is in the Midlands with Gray, and obviously in Rock Hill. But I mean, there's some down here at Oceanside. There's some people that don't like that are in the high school league and whatever. They kind of dominate in some other sports, football, as long as Goose Creek is on their run and Fort Dorchester. Oceanside may not ever be the top dog down here, but if they ever get to be the top dog, if you ever see them start beating teams like Fort Dorchester and Somerville and Goose Creek and going 12-0 and stuff like that, you'll hear the griping. It'll become quite loud. But right now it's there's a small faction that don't like it, but people kind of just deal with it.
I know we don't want to get too far off the state championship topic, but you just talked about Oceanside. Were you surprised with Joe Call retiring and who's going to get the job?
I have to be honest. I kind of heard and knew this was coming before it came, so I was not shocked when it did. I had some private conversations with Joe, who's I've known since he was a ball boy at Somerville, and I used to throw the ball with him at halftime back in the young days when I could actually walk the sidelines during a game. Now I'm afraid to get killed. So, but I kind of knew this was coming. But I think a lot of people were shocked by it. I wasn't shocked only because I had a little bit of advanced knowledge, and the rumor was widely circulated all through the season, or about mid-season on. It was out there. Now, as to who gets it, that is a really good question, because it's not a teaching position. It is you be the head football coach. So it's kind of a coaching supplement type deal. If you're not I mean, most coaches need a teaching salary. They need the real job. So I could see somebody that doesn't teach, get that job. Anton Wyvins, who's the offensive coordinator there, offensive line coach, is on the staff there. I could see him getting it. Willie Alford is a defense coordinator. I could see him getting it, but I've heard through the grapevine that he's leaving or going somewhere else. Casey Crosby, I think I've heard, is going to move to Atlanta. He's in the physical training business, and I think he's going to focus on that. Wow. So you're not, if you're a really good football coach, you're not going to make a lot of money. Now, Chad Greer did okay because he was also the AD. Mm-hmm. They have an AD right now who's the girls soccer coach. So it's a football coaching stipend kind of position. So that limits a lot of who could get that job. But I think there'll be a pretty decent coach end up there. I don't have any inside information or anything, but I mean, they'll find somebody that'll be intrigued by that whole situation. I can put to rest. There was a floater out there that Jason Winstead was going to leave Goose Creek to go there. I can affirm after a conversation with him that ain't happening. He said, I got two young kids. I need to make money. He said, if I was a retired coach, my kids were out of college and I was just looking for something to do, maybe. But plus he's got a pretty good gig going at Goose Creek right now. They're going to be good for a while.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting for OCA. Well, that's a lot of big names. A lot of great coaches over there might not be back. So we'll see what happens with some of those players. I don't know. Maybe they decide to go to, Wando. Anyways, we're not getting into that right now, David. We'll do that another day when I got more time to bitch and complain. All right.
I would rather not.
Let's leave that one alone. At the 3A level, how about those Camden Bulldogs and Daniel? They'll play at 2:00 tomorrow at Benedict.
Well, you're talking about a team in Daniel that can score, averaging 50 points a game. They throw the ball around, kind of an air raid type attack. They really score on everybody they played for 2 years. And Camden is not a team that scores, but they're really good on defense. Their defensive line is as good as Fort Dorchester's. I mean, they got some studs, and nobody scores on them. They had Dillon to 1 touchdown. Now Dillon, had some turnovers, but again, we got to credit the defense when the offense turns it over. There's a reason. I don't know if Camden, as good as they are on defense, I mean, I just don't know that they can score, more than a touchdown or two in this game. And I think Daniel, as good as Camden is, if Daniel can get 3 touchdowns, I mean, they're going to score 21. I mean, they average 50. So you just got, if they score half of what they normally score against probably the best defense they played, they're going to win the game, because I don't know that Camden's starting quarterback. This is a great story. Camden's starting quarterback right now was a starting defensive end, and their quarterbacks got hurt, and they moved this kid over. He's done a good job. I mean, he's not like, it's not like Jamie playing quarterback. I mean, he's done a good job, but that's where they are offensively. Their backs got hurt. They've had a lot of injuries. They lost a great collegiate. And that, who else did they lose? I think they've lost 2. But Daniel's the best team they will have played offensively, and I think Daniel's going to win the game. And this is a rematch of last year's game.
Yeah. Wow.
But Camden's offense last year was equally explosive. I mean, they had 2 running backs, they had a quarterback, they had a great receiver. I mean, they could score. That game last year was like 56-42. Mm-hmm. I think it was the final, 56-48 or something like that. But it was almost 100 points scored. So it ain't going to be that way this year, because Camden just does not have the horses offensively. Now, they're good on the offensive line, and they can control the ball. But, boy, if you give Daniel, if you don't make Daniel pump 5 or 6 times, you're in trouble, because they're going to find a way to score.
That's where the Sweeney and the Venables boys went to school there, Daniel High School.
Well, and the quarterback is the Danny Pierman's his son.
That's right.
Trent.
Yes. Lil Clemson.
And Sweeney has a boy on that team.
Yeah. See, there you go. There you go. Little Tigers coming to town. LIL, Little Tigers. All right. Good. Come to Columbia to win again. Back-to-back weeks. Here we go. All right. Double A level, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Gray, as you mentioned, and Silver Bluff. Gray's really good, but hey, Silver Bluff's pretty good too. They beat Barnwell last week by a touchdown, 42-35.
Yeah. This is 2 really good teams, and probably the 2 best teams, other than maybe Abbeville, who Gray also beat. But I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. 2 really good running backs. A lot of people are discounting Silver Bluff's chances in this game, and Gray is the favorite, quote unquote. They're the favorite, but I think Silver Bluff can keep it competitive because they can run the football.
Let's see here. Silver Bluff wins. That's my pick. Silver Bluff wins. I know we got people on this board from Silver Bluff. I know we do. We have people listening from that area. So Silver Bluff wins in honor of JB and Goldwater listeners.
Is it going to be 70-0?
No. I mean, it'll be tight. It'll be like. I mean, they can both score, right, David? So let's go with 35-31.
It'd be fun.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, there you go.
I'll call my bookie.
Call him.
Your high school football bookie.
Yeah. Speaking of Bobby Harton. All right, Bamberg Earhart, a 7-6 win. Wow, over C.E. Murray last week. They've got Southside Christian at noon on Saturday at Benedict.
Yeah, I think Southside's going to win the game. They're the defending state champs. They've been really good. They've given up 61 points in 13 games. Bamberg is not going to score a lot of points. They will run the football. They average about 300 yards rushing a game, but Southside's really good on defense, so they're going to get them off the field. And Bamberg doesn't throw the ball. Their quarterback got hurt, so they really are one-dimensional, and that's not going to beat Southside Christian.
So this game's going to be like 3-0, is what you're saying.
No, I don't think it'll be 3. I think Southside will score some points.
9.
Okay. It's like 9-6. A 3-run homer in the 9th wins it for Southside. How about that? All right, and then the big boys.
They're going to be some points.
Okay. All right. 17-14. All right, and at the big boy level, 5A football, it's Gaffney and it's Dutch Fork. I was off with this one, David. I thought that Northwestern and Paige Wofford would get there, but not shocked at all. The Gaffney's there. Gaffney's really, really good. They pounded Spartanburg last week, hung 56 on them, 56-31 the final, and of course Dutch Fork took care of Fort Dorchester. So it's got a chance to be a classic, but as we all know, Dutch Fork is loaded, and they're the favorites to get it done again. How close is Gaffney though to pulling this thing off?
Well, they're going to score. They're going to put some points on the board. This game's going to have some offense. Gaffney's good on defense, but they don't have near the defensive front that Fort Dorchester had that gave Dutch Fork a real fit. But I think there will be some points. I think either team could win. I guess Dutch Fork would be the favorite, but this one's going to be in the 30s, I think. I think both teams are going to score some points.
So this will be, if Dutch Fork wins, it'll be their 5th straight? Is that true? 6 straight. Which one did I miss? Maybe the one last year, I guess. I don't know.
What's their winning streak at now? It's 50-something.
No, it's 62.
Oh, sorry.
It's not a winning streak. It's an unbeaten streak because in 2019 they played Mallard Creek and it was 14-14 in the third quarter and torrential storms came through, so they never finished the game. And they, Mallard Creek was a non-region game. They were from North Carolina, so they couldn't get together and finish it. So officially that's a tie, but they would have won that game. But anyway, so they have a 62-game unbeaten streak.
Holy smokes!
Which is like a winning streak.
So, out of curiosity, and I know we got to let you go because we're past due on time here, but out of curiosity, do you? I mean, I know the Williams kid, and I know a couple other guys, but what and how much do they lose this year? I mean, I know they lose something. You have seniors every year, so they've obviously lost 5 classes worth of seniors, and here they are again. But what do they lose this year? How concerning is that moving forward to keep this thing alive?
Well, they're going to lose the quarterback. They're going to lose Williams. The other receiver is a senior. The offensive line is loaded with seniors.
Oh.
The defense has about 6 or 7 underclassmen starting, so I think they're going to be okay there. They do have quarterbacks in the system that are going to, they plug in a quarterback every year. And they'll have Jarvis Greenback, the running back. So, but offensively, they lose a good many guys, but defensively, they should be pretty good. But they're younger programs. They're JV, freshman team, or whatever they call them. They're all really good. So, I mean, they just plug and play.
Well, just so everybody knows, the 62, it's 60. They're at 61, right? If they win this, it'll be 62.
No, 62 was the one Friday night.
Okay, so that'd be 63. So that would be 20. No, that would be they'd be tied for 26th on the all-time high school football winning streaks across America. The longest winning streak ever is De La Salle out in Concord, California, 151 straight games. But not this year.
Independence, North Carolina on that.
And right behind them, 109.
109.
But they went 4-5 this year. Went 4-5. So
whatever. Yeah. They won 109
Tom
games
was the head coach at Independence before he came to Dutch Fork. So that guy's got a 109-game winning streak and a 63-game winning streak.
This guy, he knows what he's doing, I guess. It's impressive. That's
pretty good.
It's 200 games
worth of winning. Darren Goldwater of high school football coaching.
That's what they say.
Oh, man. Well, hey, man, have a blast. What a wonderful weekend. Weekend of Champions, high school football at Benedict. I hope all of you that can go. Starting tonight through Saturday, it's going to be a tremendous.
They'll be on TV, by the way. Locally, My TV will have all the games.
Yeah, My TV. And who's got the call on that? Does anybody know? Who's calling the games?
The Columbia crew typically does.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But
I know the sideline reporter is from Channel 4.
Natalie?
What's that girl's name?
Natalie Spalla?
Yeah, she's the sideline reporter for all the games, I heard.
Good for her. That makes me happy.
Wonderful. That's great news. It's always good news to talk to you. I hope you ate a ton of mac and cheese last week for Thanksgiving, David.
Dude, you have no idea.
No, I don't.
Yes, what's today? Thursday. Tuesday, I finished off the last of the leftover macaroni and cheese.
Wow, that's pretty good time, actually. Only 4 days passed. Wow. Impressive stuff. Not shocking, but very impressive. We'll let you run on that note, man. Thank you so much. Good stuff.
Okay. All right, man. Take care.
There you go. David Shelton with the Post and Courier covering this weekend's high school football state championship starting tonight at Benedict College in Columbia. All right, no anthem today. We're past due. We do need, though, to hit a quick timeout. So let's do that, Darren. When we return, Cory McCartney will pop in. Lockout in baseball and much more to discuss with him right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Georgetown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Roberts, owner of 3 Seeds Wellness Studios. And just like being in your favorite ballpark feels like home, our studio feels like home to our clients. We offer over 20 different services to help our guests cultivate, nourish, and grow their bodies and minds. Centrally located in the heart of West Ashley, we offer massages, facials, acupuncture, yoga classes, and everything in between, helping you become that you want to be. A complete list of services are available online, and gift cards are available both online and for curbside pickup. Go to 3seedswellnessstudios.com. Happy holidays.
You are listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 109 Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, motleyrice.com. Real quick, the Gamecock baseball schedule has been out for a while. One noted program on that schedule are the Texas Longhorns. Remember, South Carolina went to Austin last year and was swept by Texas. They're returning the favor this year. That same Longhorns team will play in Columbia, March 11th through the 13th, and then come here to Charleston. They'll play the Citadel down at Riley Park on that Wednesday evening. So this year, in addition to South Carolina, Tony Skoll and the Dogs will welcome the Texas Longhorns storied program to towns. That'll be really neat.
That's good because they only play Carolina, the Citadel, once, which is super weird. I don't know if I've seen that in years, that it's only been once.
Yeah, and it's here in Charleston, not in Columbia, too, which that's even weirder. Corey's not weird, but he's happy and kind enough to join us at 1:10 on a Thursday afternoon to get into some baseball stuff. First and foremost, though, Cory, how are you? How was your Thanksgiving?
Good, man. Had to take everybody around doing some shopping the day after. We kind of have this family tradition where the guys break off and do their thing. The ladies are off on their own. So it was good stuff, man. Yep. Spent a lot of time down at the Battery and got to, take in all the Braves fandom people. I tell you what, Black Friday shopping at Truist Park, where they had like all the World Series stuff marked down, it was like insanity. I'm gonna say it was like the Walmart 5 a.m. sales where people are jumping all over, but it was pretty crazy.
What's the best thing you got?
Think about that.
Well, I got my boys the World Series champion hats. Like the ones that have the patch on the side of them. So, that was pretty cool.
Maybe I'll ask Santa for one of those. That's of all the Black Friday stuff, I never didn't even click with me that the Battery this year specifically would probably be insane.
Yeah. Well, but it's like, why do it though? People are buying this stuff no matter what. I mean, you go to gas stations and stuff around here, and they have Braves World Series champion stuff. You don't need to mark it down. They're gonna be selling this stuff for years and years, especially now. I mean, that's the only baseball people have right now is living in the past.
So is it still? I mean, is Atlanta just still buzzing with this World Championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of nervousness. Obviously, I mean, it's been a weird last few days, around the Braves. Obviously, I think everyone hoped that the Freddie Freeman deal was going to get done before midnight in the CBA and the lockout, and then certainly the police cam of Marcelo Zuna's incident resurfacing, and the announcement of his suspension kind of been retroactive, and what's going to happen there. I think it's been kind of a weird last few days around this team, but I mean, certainly, you get on Twitter and fans are still, they're still crazy about that World Series moment.
Well, and if they just lock out the sport forever, they'll go down as the last champion in Major League Baseball. So I'd say that would be good. All right. I do want to ask you about some Brave stuff, but let's get to this lockout thing. I mean, honestly, it's kind of slipped under my nose a little bit. I've been following along as much as possible, Cory, but with the optimism that they would get something done, but if they didn't get something done, that it would still be done before the season comes around. It is the first lockout in baseball, not strike. Remember, everybody, there's two different things now. Lockouts from the owners. So it's the first lockout in over 30 years, 1990, the last time it happened. I think the one note that stands out the most to me was the final meeting that they had yesterday that went all of 7 minutes. Everybody flew into Dallas, walked in, and literally turned around and walked out. So what's in layman's terms, if we have people listening and watching who literally have no idea what's going on, kind of roll it out there in the simplest way possible. Why this?
Yeah, so the obviously the league does this now, so you can force the players to get to the table and not go into the season without without a labor contract, which means they could strike at any point. So I think that's why they do this now, as opposed to you get to the 94-95 situation where the players striked, which is why the union is kind of forcing their hand now. You do it at this point. I mean, you've got so many guys who, either don't know where they're going to be playing at in terms of the free agents, or you have guys who are rehabbing, who now have no access to their team physicians, rehab centers, facilities. So the union, is in a little bit of a bad spot there, where they have so many of their members just don't have access to either knowing where they're going to play or team facilities. They're trying to bounce back from an injury. But certainly, I think what the players want here is pretty clear. They want to shorten the path to free agency, and they want a bigger piece of the revenue share, but they also want to limit the revenue share that teams are getting so they aren't able to tank any longer. On the flip side of it, the league wants an expanded playoff. They want, to have something a little bit, more stated in terms of, a higher threshold for spending, but I think there's some fear that can maybe lead to a salary cap. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of pieces that play here. I think that are sticking points for both teams. But I think the biggest piece of this and the toughest one is those 0 to 3 year players, those role players that a lot of teams really rely on, getting their compensation brought up, because as we know, teams are not willing to pay those guys into their 30s any longer. They're replacing them with younger, cheaper talent and trying to get around that and bring up that pay threshold for those kind of second tier players.
Is that the biggest sticking point for the players? Because in any negotiation like this, there's going to be a give and take to some degree from both sides. Is that the biggest sticking point from the players? If not, what is, and what is it for the owners?
I believe it is. I believe for the players, it's making sure that they have a shorter route to free agency and making sure that guys aren't, being manipulated. Regardless of however this plays out, whether they say, okay, by age 30, you're a free agent, or by, shortening the amount of years before you get to free agency, we know that there's going to be manipulation that's going to either just now stop guys from, they're going to bring them up later than they would have anyway. Think about the Chris Bryant situation, stuff like that. So yeah, I think from the players, it's getting those years cut down so those guys can, because basically we've watched the game over these last few years change to the point where the analytics tell you don't pay a guy for what he's going to do, pay him for what he's done. And I think, the players want to change that. And certainly, I think from the end of the league, they want a bigger, to have a bigger postseason and have more teams that are in this and have additional rounds into the postseason. So there's just, obviously there's a lot to get into on this, and a lot remains. At this point, all you can say is that we've got 2 months before anybody's supposed to report for spring training. So while it seems at this point, while there's a lot of animosity and a lot of posturing, we still got a long way to go and lots of time for them to work this thing out.
This might be kind of a silly question, but does this issue specifically, as far as hitting arbitration, or hitting free agency earlier, that's the issue at hand, right? Hitting free agency sooner than later, correct, for the players?
Yeah, because basically we've seen teams get away from keeping around those older guys, and they're looking to replace those guys with younger, cheaper guys that they know can give them the same production. Okay,
all right. So this might be a silly question, but is this something? Does it have to be a blanket? Does this have to be a blanket rule or guideline in Major League Baseball, or is this something that maybe could be flexible and negotiated upon signing of your initial Major League Baseball contract? Like if you're a 19 or 20-year-old kid or an 18 or whatever, and you could either sign something that allows you to hit free agency earlier, maybe at a cost up front, or later to where you would actually make more money up front. Is that something that's even been discussed?
Not that I've heard of. It's certainly an interesting take, but you also wonder too, like when you have these kids that are signed as international picks, as opposed to guys who are drafted, like how does that whole, how does that all work itself out? And obviously, signing bonuses and, where it plays into draft picks. And I think there's just a lot. I honestly don't know if they've talked about that at all. I just think they're looking for kind of blanket statements at this point and just trying to stop teams that from tanking and secondarily stop them from manipulating service time.
Cory McCartney in Atlanta. All right, so the league, and I don't know if this is something that Cory, that is a serious point, or if it's just something they're using as a shield to protect other interests in these negotiations, but there seemingly has been a lot of discussion about small markets, mid-major markets, and then major markets. And the league has been saying things like, well, if the players get what they want, it's going to make it more difficult for smaller markets to be successful in Major League Baseball. Is there truth in those statements? And is Major League Baseball using those statements as a bargaining chip, or is that something they actually believe?
I honestly think it's just perception, right? So, one of the things that the players are saying, okay, let's remove $100 million, worth of revenue share. And if those teams don't have that money and they don't have that guaranteed, money coming in via the league, the only way they can get better and the only way they can guarantee that they're going to, to make money is to put butts in seats and to invest into your roster and try to be a competitive team, as opposed to being able to put a lower, a lesser product on the field and knowing eventually I'll end up getting that money. The other side of that, though, is how many teams are then going to just, lessen the amount of money that they're willing to put in anyway. So if you tell the Pittsburgh Pirates that we're taking away $100 million and they're not going to have that money coming in, won't they just spend less money on their roster anyway? I mean, I think that's kind of the other side of it. I mean, certainly, you can say, okay, well, if you're going to get into the postseason, you're going to be a good team. Players, it's going to work itself out. I just think there's other sides of it where it's like, okay, if those are the new rules, it's just like NASCAR. I'm going to try to, fit within, just bend it just a tiny bit to get a competitive edge. And obviously in this end, booster your bank account. I just think it's a little misguided. I think in the players thinking that just because you have this, you're going to get what you want, because ultimately, I mean, it's going to, I think, lead itself up to having, if you have a salary threshold and you tell every team you have to spend at least this much, then you're just getting yourself into a situation where you're going to have a salary cap, which is obviously what they don't want to have happen.
I mean, that's like the NBA, right? The NBA, matter of fact, when we first started this conversation, the first thing I thought about was the NBA. They have this postseason that lasts a lifetime. It is, God, it drives me insane. Literally lasts like 3 months. And then they complain every year about this salary cap. I'm like, well, isn't this what y'all negotiated years ago? I mean, figure it out. Shorten the postseason. It's insane. Yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting to hear the league argue a small market versus major market. I mean, the Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009, unless I've been asleep for the last decade or so. I hadn't seen them win one. Aren't they the largest market in baseball, them in LA? So, I mean, is that it? I mean, it sounds kind of I mean, I know that's a lot. I get it. But I mean, is there anything else that has crept its way into negotiations? Like, hey, while we're in the middle of this, we'd also like blank. Is any of that floating around out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some talk about, how much of it's going to be about on-field play, in terms of the designated hitter, whether it's going to be a pitch clock. There's been talk of a lottery system for the draft. I think a lot of the stuff that you talk about on field, though, feels secondary until you can kind of get through those major sticking points in terms of how you worry about arbitration, how you worry about revenue share. I think those are the major pieces for the players right now. And I think until you get through those sticking points, it's probably going to feel a little bit more heated. But everything you see from Tony Clark and Rob Manfred, I mean, realize those guys have a role in, all these negotiations, but this is done between lawyers I have a really hard time believing those guys aren't staying in contact with one another, regardless of what you're kind of feeling like in the realm of public relations.
What about the news of the balls and the different balls that were being used? I have a friend who texted me yesterday. He's like, that's it. I'm done with Manfred. I know a lot of people have been done with Manfred for a long time, but is that something that would be a bigger deal if this lockout was not happening right now? And I mean, I feel like that's about to get buried here a little bit. So is that a big deal? What happened and what happens moving forward with that?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels, it feels like if this wasn't going on, we'd be talking about it a lot more. And I do think it does show, a little bit more of the distrust that the players have for Manfred throughout this whole deal. And, it's just such an insane story that they would even try to sneak this in. I can't imagine, as much as we talk about these players and the pitchers in particular, and you were just dealing with the fact that you were trying to take these sticky substances away from them, to limit spin on the ball. And here we are talking about baseball having, done things to the ball to impact it as well. So, it's obviously, just another strange step here for Rob Manfred. And I think another thing that nobody's really been talking about through this whole process is that, obviously, as much as we talk about revenue share, there's also streaming rights that are still coming into play as well. And that's something that's happening between Major League Baseball and, Sinclair as they try to figure out, a streaming, platform. I think, the players are going to want more of that as well. So I think that's another background story to watch in this whole thing. Again, we've got so much time still at this point. It doesn't feel like anything's really limited at this point. I think the people that are being hurt the most at this point feels like it's the fans, because if you go to these teams' websites right now, they're blank. I mean, everything, you literally go to a team roster and it's showing you, like grayed out images, like a creative player on a video game. All the articles are, about historical stuff. The videos, the minor leaguers, by the way, are not impacted by this. This is a major league thing, so they can still show video of minor league players, but it feels like the fans are really the ones that are being impacted the most right now.
Yeah, it's like a cloud came overnight and just it's all gone. I mean, You literally can't have a conversation about a contract. And I know somebody in our Share Healthcare chat lines earlier said, well, they can still work out, or just, no, you literally cannot do anything.
No.
You can't, nothing. You can talk to your agent, but you can't talk to your team. You can't walk into a facility. You can't do anything. I have Cory, Whit Merrifield. I've brought this up multiple times on our show, but Whit Merrifield boldly made a statement earlier in this past season about negotiations and the finances of baseball, and basically in the midst of the conversation which we've been having for a few years now of how to speed the games up and how to eliminate all the strikeouts and all that stuff. And Whit said, this is pretty simple. Pay the guys to put the ball in play. Have you heard anything in baseball about rewarding that versus the home run or exit velos, all these analytics nobody knows anything about?
No, I haven't. And I think that would almost feel like kind of a culture change from where we've been headed with the game. And I almost wonder if you would have to ask teams to kind of, reevaluate how they're building out their rosters and what they're looking at. I mean, I think this whole, the way that StatCast is used now, and as much as, teams have dug into that, I mean, I think it's an interesting question. I mean, I think there's always going to be ways that guys build out their rosters. I mean, you go back to, the whole Moneyball thing and how they focus so much on base percentage, and, can a team win like that right now? I mean, I think, as much as we focused on, roles and analytics and how much you're able to kind of, bend things to your will. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't really have the answer to that. I think it'd be interesting to see, whether you can be successful focusing on that when so much of the way other teams have gone has been a completely different direction.
Man, fascinating stuff. All right. So we've seen a bunch of big deals, Scherzer. What am I missing, Darren? Come on.
I mean, there's a ton of them. That one obviously jumps out because it's Max Scherzer wearing blue and orange, and it's the most disgusting thought I can think of anything we could possibly talk about. But there have been, I don't know, a couple $100 million worth spent.
1.3 billion.
There you go. But I mean, predominantly by a group of teams here.
Yeah, 500 million also in contract extensions were doled out around that. So I know that you can look at that and say, okay, well, this system certainly doesn't look like it's broken by any stretch of the imagination. And I do kind of find it funny, you talk about Scherzer, that he's on the executive board for the union, and he managed to get his deal done right before the lockout happened. So, I mean, he's obviously he's on that list. You've also got Marcus Semien, who we know has gone elsewhere. Garrett Cole, who got paid 2 years ago. Francisco Lindor, who just got paid. Andrew Miller, James Paxton, who just got himself a new deal. It's just funny to me that so many of those guys that are the major players in this whole thing, literally the major players on this executive board, got themselves taken care of. But man, that Mets team, I mean, they are not scared to go out and spend money. We know Cohen. Well, I don't know if Steven Matz had gone back and said, okay, go ahead and meet me here, would they have still gone out and done this deal for Scherzer? I don't know if Cohen was just so mad at that process that he's like, give me the best guy we can find. But it's I think whether the Mets can put this thing together, whether they can have a healthy Jacob deGrom. I mean, the rotation looks really good 1 through 4 when you add in Carlos Carrasco and Taijuan Walker. I don't know if they'll go up and add a 5th guy, and then obviously the remade outfield. I don't know who's going to manage them, but right now they got some pretty decent players to put out in the field for sure.
By the way, Max Scherzer's first start, for those who don't know, I'm sure Cory knows, JB, you probably do too. His first start is against the Nationals in New York. His second start will be against the Nationals in D.C. Sweet.
Yeah, here's the good news for Nats fans and Braves fans. He can go to New York if he wants to. The Mets will not win the World Series, regardless of who else they sign. So have no fear. Randy Carlson, if you're listening, you're not winning the World Series next year. It's not going to happen. By the way, I saw Marcus Stroman got a 3-year, $71 million deal, and I was scratching my head. Well, he's never won more than 13 games in a season, and that happened back in 2017. He was 10-13 this year. I just pulled it up to make sure I could remind myself. Matter of fact, outside of he didn't pitch last year, outside of an injury-shortened 2019, losing record this year, losing record in 19, losing record in 18, losing record in 16. But he's worth $70+ million to go pitch for the Cubs. Why?
He goes to the post, man. I mean, I think that's the one thing you can say about him, is he goes out and makes his starts. He's coming off a 33 start season. So I think the Cubs, needed pitching, and they were willing to pay for it with him, a guy who goes to the post. I think, the Mets wanted him back. I'm honestly surprised, he didn't go back there considering what they've got in hand now with Scherzer and DeGrom at the top of that rotation. But I think that the Cubs were paying for some certainty with a guy that they know is going to be going out there to make his starts.
Hey, Smoke loved him when he played with him in Toronto. He said, "Oh, Stroh, man, he's the dude," amongst other things. But, all right, so we've talked about all this. We have not talked about Freddie Freeman. Well, I mean, and we're not going to be able to for a while because they're locked out. But how close were they before last night happened?
It sounds like that 6 year continues to be the sticking point, and I really don't understand it. I mean, I don't know if you can figure out a way to add in that as an option year that's a little bit more towards a player option as opposed to a team option with a high buyout. But it seems like that's, just that sticking point is that 6th year. And I guess I just don't understand it because, he's trying to make sure this is the last contract that he has. And I think he's aging a little bit differently than other guys when you think about paying too much, for a first baseman. Everyone goes through those contracts for Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. I just don't see him, as somebody who's more of a contact guy, not necessarily a power hitter. I just can't see him, breaking down the same way. And obviously you add in the ability to use him as a designated hitter and get him some days off. I just don't see it. It just seems bizarre to me that we're still having this conversation. The Braves want him. He wants to stay a Brave. I just don't understand how they weren't able to get this done by the deadline stopping point.
He's 31 years old?
He's going to his age 32 season.
So he'll be 32 this year?
Yes.
6 years? I mean, come on. With the DH coming up, dude, this cat, the way that he is continuing to hit the base, he gets better every year, which is amazing. And
Scherzer's 37 and just signed a multi-year $40-some million.
Yeah. What are we doing? I mean, and Anthopoulos deserves so much credit, all the credit. I mean, look what he's done. But that's kind of frustrating. It's the face of your franchise. I don't think that you should balk at 6. Balk at 10 years, 6, 7, 8 years. That cat's worth it. He's won a World Series. He's worth it.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that he's ultimately going to go anywhere else. I mean, I just think that there's been a lot of missteps by the Braves here, right? I mean, I think you should have got this done before he even arrived at spring training. And obviously, the second you won a World Series with him, and you knew that there was the end of the CBA, you should have just jumped on it immediately and just got it done. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I was at the parade and the ceremony afterwards. I couldn't have imagined a better, final bow on this year if they could have announced the contract extension at that moment when he was at the podium. Instead, you had Dansby Swanson and Travis d'Arnaud going up there chanting, bring back Freddie. I mean, I just think there was I have a hard time believing, that it doesn't happen and that he goes anywhere else. It just feels like there was just so many times that they should have already announced this. It just seems crazy.
I agree. Yeah, it's
no doubt
fairly unceremonious. That's kind of ludicrous, but they're still world champions. He'll still end up in Atlanta. I know that fans want to hear the news now, but he'll be back. He'll be in Atlanta. They'll figure it out. They don't have any choice. Cory, thank you so much for popping in with us today. Wonderful stuff as always. It's amazing. It's December and Major League Baseball is one of the prime stories in the country because nobody's allowed to talk to each other. It's like a bad breakup, but they always get back together in the end. It's one of those type movies. We do anticipate this thing will, they'll kiss and make up by sometime in early March at the latest, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw, the last 2 years, they don't need that much time to get things ready, for the season. If we're stretching into March, even, I don't think this day and age, guys don't show up at spring training to get in shape anymore. I think that's a fallacy of the past. So I would imagine, they will be good to go unless we're talking about this going into April.
Unless you're the Panda. The Panda shows up to get in shape.
He's in a shape.
You're right.
Dude, I think it's like Smoke. I've watched Smoke for a decade get ready for the season, and it's amazing. He would come home, depending on the playoffs, October or November or whatever. He'd take a month off every time, and then basically now, he'd spend the next 60 plus days working out, going downtown in January, working out with the Citadel and doing all these rehab things, not rehabbing anything specific, but his body in general. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? It's Christmas Eve. I got to go see my chiropractor. I'm like, what? But that's how they all do it now.
Yep.
You get there in February and you're ready to go. So
yep,
it's crazy.
Absolutely.
Then you can go fish the whole time. Corey, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you here pretty soon, more than likely before Christmas. So we'll wish you a Merry Christmas here in the next couple of weeks.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. There you go. Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia, 1:34 on a Thursday afternoon. Timeout when we return. Tagga Woods, y'all. Isn't that what they say in that song? Scott Glaze with Stone Ferry. He's up next on the JB and Goldwater Show. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
All right, guys and gals, we all know it's the holiday season and you've opened up your playbook for gift giving. Don't dig too deep because I have the perfect stocking stuffer for your favorite teammate. Gift cards and baskets from 3 Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashland. Luckily, my wife doesn't listen to our show or she would know what Santa's delivering from the North Pole. Check out 3seedswellnessstudios.com for gift cards and their retail store and have their elves stuff a gift basket full of holiday magic. 3 Seeds Wellness Studios, 3seedswellnessstudios.com to score this holiday season.
What's up, everybody? This is South singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and on air.
You know what? I think we're supposed to call Scott on the phone is what we're supposed to do today. He sent us a note during the show, and I forgot that you weren't on. He actually sent me a text that I saw, so we'll have to call Scott. If you
that can happen.
Can you do that?
That can happen, yes.
Okay, there you go. All right, welcome back. Sorry about that. 1:39 here on this Thursday afternoon. Scott Glaze up here in just a moment. A couple of things we have not gotten to. One, Jackie Bradley Jr. returns to Boston. That was announced yesterday. The Red Sox are bringing him, quote unquote, home to play with the Red Sox again. They're sending Hunter Renfroe to Milwaukee. And let's see, what am I missing here? Steve Addazio fired today at Colorado State.
Yes.
So Steve Addazio is going to be looking for a new. That was always an interesting
fit. Yeah.
It
never really worked.
It was interesting. Yeah. I've got some a contact out there still at Wyoming, who I had asked, but Wyoming, Colorado State, big rivalry there, and they said, yeah, that was interesting. So, do we have Scott?
We do. We got Scott.
We do. Oh, say, hey, Scott, it's my fault because you sent us a message and said phone, and we're at noon every day we go on the air, and so I didn't have a chance to respond to you, and then I forgot to tell Darren about that. Sorry, man. What's up?
No worries. Absolutely no worries. I'm actually on puppy duty today. Got a new puppy part of the fam, so no access to a computer, even though he'd be great on camera, but. Yeah, sorry about the late notice there, but
no, you're good.
Two great things: puppies and watching Tiger Woods swing a golf club.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we need to take a whole lot of time. Let's dive into this, right? Tiger Woods. There's plenty of video out there now. He's swinging it, and he has said he doesn't know if he'll ever be a full-time golfer again. But you watched him swing. What'd you see?
His swing looked, well, gosh, the 3-second video that he posted, I guess it was last week, that just went viral into the stratosphere there, looked really, really good, especially from a technical standpoint. It looked very controlled. That's one thing of Tiger's swing in the past, especially before injury, is that sometimes it just looked like he swung with such reckless abandon that injury was bound to happen, which it ultimately did. He swung very under control. I mean, obviously so. He's coming back from a mangled right leg and foot there. What I noticed, it did look, he's in the video where he was wearing shorts. He's got the sleeve on the right leg. It does look like that leg is atrophied. It looks pretty skinny. He's still obviously rehabbing. It's only been 9 months since he got into the wreck, but golf swing looks great. And Tiger's not going to put a golf swing. Everything he does his whole career has been extremely calculated. And there's a reason why he put up that swing when he did. We saw more video of him down in Albany yesterday on the back of the range hitting balls. He knows there's a camera on him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that was a surprise all of a sudden. So everything he does is very calculated by himself and his team, and he wouldn't be putting these notions out there if he wasn't planning a comeback. I think it's funny to watch Tiger swinging a golf club again. And then the swing we saw yesterday with a little more speed. He was hitting a fairway wood, which I was surprised to see. And then to hear him talk, I almost think in his press conference he's trying to hedge his bets a little bit. So he obviously wants to make a comeback. He wants to model his comeback like Ben Hogan did after his horrific car wreck. Just cherry pick a couple events, and I love how he says maybe I can, quote, click off a tournament or two, which I think in his comments, I think he's hedging a little bit, but the fact that he's grinding away like the same old Tiger Woods, I know that he's using this as motivation, just another chip on the shoulder, so to speak, to make a comeback. It's that bulletin board material type deal, and it's not going to surprise me at all when the day comes that we see him teeing it up again on tour.
Scott, this is obviously one of those Disney-type moments in sports, probably going to be a movie about it at some point in time. Might already be a movie about Tiger Woods at some point in time, like a real Disney movie coming just because of what he pulled off at the Masters and things of that nature. Generally, when things like this happen, we all go, well, this world that we live in, Scott, I'm not sure if you've noticed it or not, but it's a negative place. No, everybody wants to tell you how right they are and how wrong you are and how bad it's going to be and this, that, and the other. I generally try to not go down that road because I just can't do it. But if there's anybody in the world in sports who I would never question, it's Tiger Woods. And I really don't care if Greg Norman, who Tiger apparently isn't very thrilled with what he's trying to do, stared me in the face, said he can't do it. I'd say, you go blow smoke up your own ass. I'm not going to be the guy that discredits Tiger Woods. Because as you mentioned the word calculated. He is so calculated with everything he does, everything he eats, everything he says. I love this quote from yesterday as it pertains to golf. Quote, "I've got to be good enough to do it, okay?" Kind of asking the question back to the reporters. "So I've got to prove to myself in practice that I'm good enough. I'll chip and putt any of these guys, but the golf courses are longer than just a chip and putt course. We're not going to be playing the par 3 course at Augusta to win the Masters. So I got to get a little bit bigger game than that. As I said, I've got a long way to go in the rehab process to be able to do something like that." But he recognizes it, but he also had some confidence in there of, hey, I can go out there and chip and putt, and I can give it a shot that way. So what does that tell you about Tiger Woods, his mentality and the future of his game with it?
I think he feels really good. If we go back a few years ago, where he was struggling with such immense back pain, which ultimately led to his spinal fusion, and there were comments the Tiger made, and it might have been at the same setting down in Albany at the Hero World Challenge. I'm not quite sure, but where he basically hinted at the fact that he may never play golf again, and that he had come to grips with that. And then he had the spinal fusion, and he's come back and then climbed Mount Everest, as he told Golf Digest earlier this week, and he reached the pinnacle again to then have this horrific car wreck. And first of all, it's great that Tiger is healthy, that he has his leg, that he's walking, that he's hitting golf balls. I mean, that's a win right there. That Tiger Woods is still going to be involved in the game of golf. But to me, he looked really confident in that press conference. There was not a doubt of if he's going to be able to play golf at a high level again. I think it's just the quantity of his golf going forward due to his leg and whatnot. And back to Tiger being very calculated, I think if he does cherry pick his events, play the 4 majors, maybe play the Players Championship and maybe a couple others, we might see a different schedule out of Tiger because his game is going to be different going forward, especially if he's lost distance and continues to lose distance as he ages, and then the effects that this leg injury is going to have on his golf game. So we might see him at some golf courses that we typically have not seen Tiger in the past when power was such a part of his golf game. For instance, I don't think Tiger will play 2 weeks in a row ever again, probably due to the leg and the physical shape that it requires to play a week of golf and then turn right back around and do it again. So where the Heritage falls on the schedule is always the week after the Masters. But I think a golf course like Harbor Town, where they play the Heritage, is all of a sudden going to fit into this new Tigers game. I think Tiger is going to be not quite as long, especially with the driver, but I think that he will be able to be much more accurate because of that. He's going to have to swing more within himself, more controlled, like we saw in the 3-second video with the iron there. I think that will translate into his long game. And Tiger historically has been erratic off the tee. So if his game all of a sudden morphs into maybe hitting at 275, 280, 285 off the tee instead of the 300 plus numbers, but keeping it in the fairway, I think he still can compete on the PGA Tour, but as a result, will play different golf courses. I don't think we'll see him trying to go play golf courses that are 75, 76, 700 yards if he doesn't have to, if it's not a major championship. So I think his short game, as he alluded to, is probably really, really sharp because same with the spinal fusion that he had. That's something that you can do early on in the rehab process, is be able to chip and putt. So now he's building back that full swing, and I, like you said, you can't count the guy out. He's had so many things to motivate him in the game of golf and to this point in his career, and it's just going to be another piece of material that's going to motivate him to go win again. And I don't know if that'll be the Masters or if it'll be the Travelers Championship, but regardless, if he's able to come back and win, it's still just a remarkable chapter to his story and what he's meant to the game of golf.
Scott Glaze, 150 on a Thursday afternoon. Get your gift cards now for the holiday season. Stuff those stockings with
you can stock the stockings as well.
Yeah,
that'll work.
That. Yeah, you go. Stock the stockings, stuff the stockings. Gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a you know what? StoneOferryGolf.com and book your tee times there. It's beautiful the next week or so at least with weather. Wow, what a time to play golf. Regardless, I love that word, of whether he plays the Travelers or the Heritage or the Masters, Scotty, his next win makes him the leader all time, 83. He would be one ahead of Hogan. And he's still 3 majors behind Jack's 18, which would take 4 to get there. I'm never going to say he can't do it because it's Tiger. That's where I just don't know. I think it's fair to question. I don't know if Tiger will ever win another major or play in a major, let alone win 3 to tie it and 4 to break that record. But he can win one more tournament to get to 83, Scotty. The first question I have for you quickly here is, how likely do you think that is? He can get one more under his belt to take the overall lead.
I think he can. Yeah, I think he can get another tour win for sure, especially if his game gets back to the tour level. And Tiger knows better than anybody else if his game is ready. To go back to the quote and what he said, that he's got to prove it to himself. He's going to know better than anybody else. And I think if he plays on a golf course where he knows that he can compete, if his short game is firing on all cylinders, Tiger, and to go back to the point that I was making about his golf swing, if Tiger loses some of his distance, that's okay, because even if Tiger is playing more mid-irons into greens on longer golf courses and he's hitting it shorter, works out perfectly because he's the best iron player to ever walk the face of the earth. Tiger's strength has always been his middle and long irons, and it's absurd the accuracy and the dominance of those stats of Tiger's iron game. So that hasn't left him. For him, that's like riding a bike. I do think he's going to have a chance to compete. And honestly, before seeing him swing a golf club again, and before hearing him talk, really, I've had the mentality that it's great that he is upright, that he has his leg, that he's healthy, that he's a part of his kids' lives, so on, so forth. And who cares about the rest? Because he's had a great career and changed the game of golf forever. But after seeing him swing a golf club, and after seeing him in that press conference, seeing that confidence, that kind of a little bit of a gleam in his eye, and seeing the way he's kind of getting after it, I now think that it's going to be more of a reality. Now, I'm not running to go put money on the 35-1 odds that he's going to win the Masters. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But I do think that over the course of the next maybe 3 or 4 years, he's going to have opportunities on the PGA Tour. I think in terms of the major championships, who knows? That's going to be extremely difficult to have his body ready for 4 days of playing golf at just the ultimate level. I think it's going to be really tough in terms of a U.S. Open just how long and gruesome these U.S. Open courses are getting year after year. And if he can make it maybe all the way to 2027, so we're basically talking about 5.5 years from now, Tiger would be over 50 years old. That's when we're back at Pebble Beach. That's the first time that the U.S. Open returns to a golf course that is where the distance can be contained a little bit. They only have so much property out at Pebble Beach. They can't stretch the thing out to almost 8,000 yards like you can somewhere like the Ocean Course. So I think the U.S. Open's probably out of the question unless all the stars align somehow. And same with the PGA Championship. All these PGA Championship venues going forward are very long golf courses. I think that's going to be very tough for him if he's going to be struggling to hit the ball over 300 yards. However, I do think that due to his success and immense knowledge at Augusta National, he's always going to be a threat there. Distance is important, but we have seen players with knowledge have success at Augusta. Also, some shorter players still have success at Augusta. And then in the Open Championship, anything goes. The course management required to win the Open Championship at those different golf courses, Tiger certainly has. He knows the nuances of length-style golf. So I think in terms of major championships, those are going to be his best opportunities over the coming years to be the Masters and the Open Championship. And who knows if he'll get there. It'll be great to see. But this week has totally changed my opinion on the state of Tiger's golf game going forward, and it's better than I thought it was going to be.
That was a brilliant synopsis that you just got rolled out there. You answered the question before I could get to it, because I was going to ask you that exact question of, okay, I don't know off the top of my head every course they're playing in the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship, or for that matter over at the British Open or the Open, whatever they call it now. But just based on general setup, what you thought. So I don't need to go down that road. That's wonderful. Final question here, by the way. Daniel Berger is leading round one down at the Hero. It's a nice time of year to play golf in the Bahamas at New Providence. JT right behind him at 4 under through 6. Final question, Scott. Got a couple minutes to answer this here. Had he not made the run that he made, winning the Masters, finishing off and winning the Tour Championship in Atlanta, turnaround, winning the Masters, getting that winning feeling, that major winning feeling, no pun intended, back. Had he not made that run and felt like, wait a second here, man, I'm kind of close. I'm kind of Tiger Woods again. Where do you think he'd be today mentally in this process of rehabbing his injuries and then eventually rehabbing his golf game?
I think he'd be in a totally different spot. I think had he not had that run, and he had to do it differently. That was his quotes earlier this week in Golf Digest, which I alluded on how he climbed the mountain back in 2018, which bled over into 2019, and winning the Masters was different than we had seen Tiger do it. Tiger played a full schedule in 2018, played more events than he had played in nearly a decade. And coming off of his spinal fusion and everything like that, that took a toll on his body, and the fatigue that it took. At the end of 2018, at the Ryder Cup, Tiger played miserably in that Ryder Cup in Paris due to fatigue coming off the Tour Championship. However, he continued his great play the next year, obviously winning the Masters. And I totally sorry, JB, I totally got sidetracked. What was the question?
No, just where would he be mentally had he not had the success he had, concluding with the Masters?
Where would he be? Had he not had that success, I think he'd be in a totally different spot.
Yeah.
I think he had to prove it to himself. And even though he is Tiger Woods, the best golfer, in my opinion, to play the game, even though he's not at Jack's mark, I think the mark Tiger has made on the game, the way he played the game is the most dominant that has ever been seen in the game of golf. But he fell from grace so visibly, so tragically, and it hurt. Physically, it hurt him physically, it hurt him mentally, and even being such a great champion, it took a huge toll on him, and probably more than he'll ever admit. And he had to prove it to himself again that he could make it back. And had he not done that, who knows the toll it would have taken on his psyche to then have to go through it again. But the fact that he was able to do it, that he was able to come back from such a difficult surgery, a spinal fusion, the way his game had fallen off, the confidence that the hit to his confidence that took to come all the way back to win the Masters, to be the best player on the planet, even though he did not reach number one in the world again a few years ago. He was playing the best golf of anybody on the face of the earth. So he reached the pinnacle again. So I think it really proved a lot to him that he can do it, that he still can do it, no matter the circumstance and no matter his age. So I think that has reinvigorated him to want to come back and try and do it again. And it will look different than the last comeback. And it might not have the same ending as the last comeback, but it's not going to be the last time that we see Tiger Woods on the golf course, on the PGA Tour, or teeing it up in a major championship. And how lucky are we, barring any setbacks, how lucky are we that that's going to be the case?
No question. No question about it. Go Tiger. Scott, thank you so much, man. StoneOakFerryGolf.com to book your tee times as we continue to remind you. It's a great place to shop this holiday season as well. You can head to StoneOakFerryGolf.com, or you can go to our website, and it'll link you right there. Go pop in out in Hollywood, play around the golf, check out the pro shop, get you a gift card for somebody for a round of golf and a polo or whatever you want to get them out there. It's such a great place. Scott, we'll have you back next week and right on into the holiday season so we can keep reminding people that that's where you want to go to get their stuff to get out on the course. But we got to let you run on that note, man. Good luck with that new pup. You know what? It's National Mutt Day. What type of dog is it?
It's a dachshund. It's a long-haired dachshund, so he's not a mutt. He's got a he's got a lineage there.
He's a wiener dog. We'll wait till National Wiener Day and we'll celebrate him then.
Yeah, there we go.
Scotty, thank you, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you
later.
Scott Glaze, StoneOakFerryGolf.com. Thanks to Scott, Cory, and David Shelton. Plenty more to get to tomorrow. Got all the betting stuff on the championship games. Good luck tonight in the state championship to get South Point and Beaufort at the 4A level. They'll play tonight. Good luck to them. Hi, Meredith. I spent time with Meredith Taylor last weekend, one of the most lovely people on the planet. Thanks, Darren. Thanks to all of you. Can't wait to see y'all tomorrow at noon right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Have a thirsty Thursday at the Dog and Duck, and we'll see you then.